Hi, this is Lorraine, and I'm doing another video. If you'll give me a second to clear, center, and balance my energy, we'll get started. Okay, I think I'm just going to get started. I feel like there's a lot this week. So this is June 3rd. This is the second half of the day because I woke up really early and did that video. And then later in the day, I got more messages after I did the video. The thing that came to me that I forgot, so I didn't mention. So in the last video, there was something that came to me during the video and it didn't come back to me, so I just released it, let it go, and just kept on going. This is that thing. It's about telepathic communication. Someone asked me to share my story of telepathic communication. What I realized when thinking about that is, what came to mind first was hearing others speak my thoughts. So I went through the whole process of understanding and realizing that I was telepathic, even though I didn't know it. But so I explained that when I responded to her question. So, and then I made the connection about hearing other people speak my words. So what I realized when I was thinking about that question was hearing others speak my thoughts in many places on many levels. I always was confident in my path and purpose. 3 years ago, when I started doing these videos, I never worried about followers. I felt like those who were to receive the messages would. I also felt it was never about engaging people directly. It was about putting the energy out into the field of Mother Earth and continuing forward as guided. I have had days of frustration. The knowing is the greatest culprit of frustration. But I also know, as long as I do as I am guided, all is as it should be. As I hear people speaking my thoughts, it affirms what I know to be true. I always feel it before I see or hear it. So basically what that's saying is, in the beginning when I started doing this video, I know people are really big on followers and how many followers you have, and I never really, I got a little frustrated at first because I remembered on my Instagram that all of a sudden, like, the page was kind of blowing up and there were a lot of people liking certain posts, and then all of a sudden it's just completely dropped off and stopped on YouTube and on Instagram. And then I just had to say to myself, this is not about that. This is not about followers. You do not want people to follow you. You are here to help people be their own best guide. You're here to help people look within, figure out how to look within and seek and find their connection with the divine. Okay, that was 3 years ago. That's what I felt really strongly. So I'm like, to have people follow you is counterproductive. That's not what you want. That's not what you want. It's more about putting that energy out there, right? And so I knew intuitively, I felt it in every part of me, that it was just speak it into the universe, speak it into the field of Mother Earth. Just keep going, just keep going. That is what you're doing. You're just planting seeds into the super unconscious, okay, into the collective consciousness. That is what is most important. You don't have to communicate directly with people, right? My consciousness can reach that way. And so I always felt that in every part of me. But recently I'd be walking around, or I'm around people, and in many modalities, many forms of media, and I hear people speaking my words exactly, okay? And so what that tells me is that it's just about putting that message out. People are receiving it. I know they're receiving it because they're speaking it back to me. Maybe not directly, but they are speaking it back to me. And so even that knowing I carried 3 years ago is now being affirmed as I see people and hear them speaking my words back to me. Okay. And that is telepathic communication. Even though people aren't, I'm not communicating back and forth with those people, although there are some people that I can communicate back and forth telepathically with. This is more of a delayed response. So I put it out over the last 3 years, and it took 3 years for those messages to come back to me, for people to say, yes, I received your message, and here it is, as they mirror it back to me. Okay. June 5th. So I was watching the movie The School of Good and Evil on Netflix. So I guess I should do a spoiler alert. So there's another movie I'm going to talk about in this video, and I'll just put a timestamp somewhere, or actually in the video, in a picture-in-picture. So if you just want to fast forward because you haven't seen the movie, you're more than welcome to do that. But there was a perfect example of light becoming darkness demonstrated in the video, in the movie. And I've always said, when you become that thing that you're fighting against, that you're trying to resist, you then become that thing, right? So the example I've given in the past is like the rioting and such that happened after COVID. So all these people are fighting for rights, and they're becoming incredibly violent, fighting for rights. Okay, for example, I don't want to talk about any one thing, sorry. But Martin Luther King was a perfect example, and Gandhi, of passive resistance and what can be done. And Martin Luther King changed the face of the United States with his passive resistance. And he had people of all races united in one goal, and that was to get rid of the Jim Crow laws, right? Which he accomplished. And as a result, he became so powerful, he was then assassinated, I think the day before or the day after I was born, April 2nd or April 4th of 1967. And but then we have today these events where people are trying to fight for rights of different groups, and they're becoming violent, they're destroying property, they're hurting people, they're being verbally and physically abusive to people, and people have died, right? So in their efforts to create equality, they become the darkness, right? They are the thing we are trying to rid this world of. They become aggressive, violent, destructive, okay? Violence begets violence. And so these people who claim to be fighting for the rights of people and for equality have now become the darkness, okay? They've become the thing that they're fighting against. And so in this movie, they say good defends, evil attacks. And there is a scene where the good, the princes, attack the princes of the school of good, attack the individuals in the school of evil. Okay, so now good is attacking. They are becoming the darkness. They are becoming evil. And so what happens in that scene is all the princes and the princesses all of a sudden are wearing the black clothing, okay, because evil is always dressed in black, right? And all the evil who now are defending themselves are all dressed in the princess in the colorful clothing. Okay, so we see the role switch as good becomes evil and evil becomes good, because good attacked, and it's not supposed to do that, right? I just was watching that and I'm like, what a perfect example of what that means when you try to resist the darkness, but you become the darkness, right? You become the darkness by trying to resist the darkness by using its techniques, okay? And that's completely calculated and intentional, that this negative polarity, this unbalanced energy provokes you to the point, or provokes people who consider themselves living in balance to the point of making them or converting them into this dark, unbalanced energy, okay? Okay, June 6th, vision, men's faces, facial hair, period images, tyrannical energy, even though I couldn't identify him. Okay, so I was having visions. I was sitting on my couch, which normally this happens when I'm at home, and all of a sudden, and I really wasn't doing anything. I think I might have just closed my eyes for a second. I wasn't taking a nap or resting or anything, but I closed my eyes and all of a sudden I started seeing these visions, and they were popping, these faces were popping up in front of me, and they were more like busts, so I can only see them from like the chest up, and it reminded me very much of one of the original Superman movies with Christopher Reeves. And they had a scene where these faces, they were representing people, just kind of would pop up in the scene and float away, or I don't know, come up and go down. That's exactly what happened. These faces would come up and they would go down. So they were rotating through. And they were just tyrannical. It was a very tyrannical energy. I couldn't identify who they were by looking at them, but I could feel the energy. They came up in front of me, then fell back into a black abyss. It was just their head or bust, like a bust. The message was that this tyrannical energy is leaving the field of Mother Earth. I can feel it before I see it. For the last several years, I've talked about an expelling, a petering out of unbalanced or negative energy. I felt that very deeply. Now I'm seeing it in visions. We can also see people falling out of the public eye and into the shadows. This is the second time I've had a vision like this. So I feel like there's a lot of people that 3 years ago or 4 years ago I used to see in the public eye quite a bit, who are now not as visual, not as upfront. The next election in the U.S. is not going to be what people think it is going to be. The last election, I do not feel the last election yielded the results most liberals, and I'm just going to use that label, were looking for. Equally, I do not feel the next election will yield the results its followers, believers, constituents are hoping for. So I don't feel that what people were looking for after the last election came to fruition in the last 3 years. Okay? Excuse me. I also don't feel like whatever occurs in the next election will yield what people are looking for. It doesn't matter on which side of the fence you fall, whether it's red or blue, it doesn't matter. Whatever happens, whatever individual is elected is not going to yield the results that humanity is hoping for. This will demonstrate that no political paradigm, economic infrastructure, judicial body can or will yield what humanity is hoping for. Looking outside of yourself will not provide what you desire. As most continue to look outside themselves for answers, help, salvation, what comes next will demonstrate that humanity is looking in the wrong place for for what they desire. The powers that be will not tell you what you need to know. They show and tell you what you want to see and hear in order to maintain control. Thus, there must be something to help shift the perspective of humanity in this moment. I talked about moving through the darkness and finding my way back to center in the last video, and the value in that experience. What comes in the future will help shift the mindset of humanity in these moments to help empower those individuals in their next lifetime, future now moments. It will be challenging because it will be quick. And so future lifetimes, if you're living from a 3D past, present, and future, you can say future lifetimes. But if you understand that all time is happening simultaneously, every moment is a now moment that we're existing, because all time is happening at the same time. It's simultaneous. I wanted to explain that so you don't get confused by the two phrases, because not everybody's living from the same level of consciousness or awareness. I have opened myself up to the journey of awakening, as many have, and have been walking this journey fully for the past 7 years. There are many who have not chosen to open those doors and look in. They have chosen to remain stagnant. The transition coming to shift the current paradigm will be jolting for these individuals and difficult to process. But I know personally, spiritual awakening is not an easy process. It challenges every part of you and asks you to look at yourself with clarity and honesty, then love yourself and the world around you unconditionally. This is harder than it sounds, but it's not meant to happen overnight. We are merely being guided to begin this journey on this world from this place. There will be those who will still choose to resist. But this is a wonderful opportunity for humanity. It is an opportunity to jumpstart to a new beginning. 6/8, June 8th. So I was sitting actually on the bus and going to work, and I just felt like I needed to sit in silence. A lot of times I'm listening to stuff. This time I felt I just needed to be quiet. And I closed my eyes, and all of a sudden I saw this planet, and it looked like Saturn. So I just drew this. I'll do a picture-in-picture. But it looked like Saturn. It was round, and then it looked like it had a ring. But it just looked like one solid object. So it looked more like this one in the middle right here. And it kept on moving and shifting. So the ring, so I have the ring at the top here. The ring kind of moved over to the side and looked like a little bit asymmetrical, like off balance. And that ring kept shifting on that planet. So we have this round item, and then we had this ring, and it would go to the top, it would go to the middle, it would go down to the bottom, it would shift to the side, it would shift this way, and it kept on moving. And it was magenta. The planet and the ring was magenta in color, and then it turned yellow on the outer ring, and outlined, I should say, outlined in yellow. And then all of a sudden, it just, the whole background in the vision and what I was seeing, it really wasn't a vision, but it was just, and it really wasn't a manifestation. I don't really know how to describe it, because it wasn't in my mind's eye and it wasn't physically manifested in front of me. Maybe it was projected into my consciousness, but it was a massive it was more like I was looking on the back. I could see it on the back of my eyelids, like I was looking at a movie screen. That's a better description. And the whole background lit up like a sun going supernova. Massive, massive. There are no words that I have to describe it. And the planet itself looked infinitesimally small compared to this massive burst of energy. And it was definitely looked like a sun going supernova. And it kept on happening. It kept on happening. So this planet is moving and shifting, and the best way I could describe it, it's phasing in and out. I got shifting planes of existence and phasing in and out. That's what kept coming. And then this sun just going supernova. But I didn't see the sun. I just saw the massive blast. And I was just like, what does that mean? What does it mean? So I was having a lot of visions of star constellations back in 2017. Stars, I would see shifting planes of existence. It took me a while to figure out that they were different shifting planes, and they looked like floating shelves, I guess, but they were being projected on my wall, and I could see them shifting. And then I was also seeing different star constellations. But I have notes here: violet light and red light. Then I see the stars constellations, and then I have notes: feeling warm, tingling feeling everywhere, could feel the energy in my brain. So I guess I had how I would describe things back in 2017 and how I would describe things today are a little bit different, but I feel like the tingling was in the crown of my head as well as throughout my whole body as I was having that experience, and I was seeing the violet light and the red light. And as I was seeing the shifting planes of existence. And so the planet, then I have 419, I have Saturn was red. The planet that I had the vision of was actually red. And that's in my notes here also. And so I guess the big thing is going through my journal and just seeing all that additional information and finding new meaning and understanding in what's in my journal. Understanding that there were seeds were being planted way back in 2017 for a lot of things that are happening today. So I have also a note: star constellations. The star constellations that I saw back in 2017 are which eventually I came to the conclusion that it represented the location of Cepheus, which is where those who will not be transcending on this world will be incarnating to once again try to elevate their consciousness to a higher level of awareness so they can move from this three-dimensional reality to a higher dimensional reality, a higher level of consciousness. Not a higher dimensional. I don't like using that term, but that's what people use today. That's the general consensus, pop culture. I don't know, whatever people call it. But it's all about shifting our awareness and perception of the world and the universe around us. That is what each transition is about. It's not about density or dimensions. Okay, it's about a shifting of awareness. And so I have another image that I'll do a picture-in-picture of the planet as it's shifting and phasing in and out. I'll just put it up in one of the corners here. And so it was a blast of energy like a sun going supernova, massive blast, celestial event affecting Earth, affecting our solar system. And so when I kept seeing those blasts, it was clear that there's going to be a celestial event that will happen, and it's going to affect not only Earth, it's going to affect our whole solar system. Okay, and just I know that people are talking about the poles and the shifting or the flipping of the poles, and that will be something that occurs here on Earth. But what I saw, what that vision was a celestial event. That's not, it's so huge, if it happened in our solar system, it would destroy it. But the energy projected from that supernova is going to be hitting us, and it's going to be very intense, and it was described to me as a celestial event. Okay. And because the planet was so small, it's the level of how it will affect our Earth and our solar system is just not really within our capacity to understand. Because what I was seeing was just I can't put it into words to describe. And that's another part of this video that's really important, is we're at a place now that I'm not meant to describe these things to people. People are having to connect. People need to go within, connect to their higher self and to the divine, and seek the answers that they need. Seek the information that they need. I'm not meant to explain these things anymore. Because they're not translatable. They can't be translated in language. It has to come through your connection to the divine, your intuitive self. June 8th, shifting, changing, moon, red, 5:15, existing between the spaces. 5/4, May 4th, 2017. So these are all from going through this journal. I was reviewing the shifting planes and the constellations and all those visions I was having. It was about almost a year I kept on having those visions. And I did a whole lot of research and writing, and there's a whole bunch of stuff in my journal, but the 7 colors of the rainbow, the 7 vibrations of music, and the 7 levels of existence were all written in my journal. And that just I've been seeing a lot of 777s, and what that tells me is these things, these ideas, frequency, vibration, and levels of consciousness, awareness, are all huge and at play right now. Whatever that means for you, that is for you to seek and find. I know what that means for me, but I was receiving these messages in May of 2017, and so the best message I can send to you is that we all need to find what works for us in seeking and finding our way back to our hearts and to our connection to the higher self, ourselves, and through that understanding our connection to the divine, or our true divine self, because that is what is necessary to transcend to the next level of consciousness and awareness. So I have vision, golden ratio, Fibonacci spirals. They were like hair on my head. The spirals were. Then Australia came into my field, my mind, my consciousness. It is a powerful time of change for Australia. Many or much unbalanced energy trying to restrain Australia. There is a massive creative power moving to the surface in Australia. And then I have wounded healers. Wounded healers who have found their way to balance are the most effective in their execution of path and purpose. And then I have Fibonacci spirals as hair. That energy of creation is not only associated with Australia, it is globally. There is only discernment. There is no application of opinion or judgment on others. And then again, I have those who can make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities. Voltaire. There is, and so I just was writing notes. I'm trying not to overwhelm myself or overwhelm people in the videos, but there is a lot of stuff happening in Australia, and so I've worked with Uluru and that sacred space with other energies, and from the 5D to the 3D with people in that region, spiritual energies communicating telepathically. And then as I was having that vision, I could just see and feel this powerful energy coming to the surface. It's moving to the surface. Everything is moving to the surface right now. And there is a massive shift with this unbalanced energy trying to restrain that energy. And they're trying to do it by instilling fear and oppressing the people in Australia. But there's nothing that's going to stop this energy from coming to the surface. It's coming. And that's a metaphor when I say coming to the surface. There is a process that's happening, and a lot of it has to do with divine timing. Okay? And so there are many wounded healers finding their way, and those wounded healers are the most powerful source of change on the planet, because from this 3D level, because of what they've gone through, the trials and tribulations of their lives, finding their way back to center, finding their way back to balance, finding their way back to the heart, empowers that individual in a way that cannot be articulated. 6/9, June 9th. So I'm going to have to do a spoiler alert also for I watched Avatar: The Way of the Water, and so I'll put a timestamp or up in the video in the corners where you can fast forward to if you want to not get the movie ruined if you haven't seen it. But if you listen to this part, part of the movie will be ruined. So I would suggest, if you haven't seen it and you want to see it, just fast forwarding and skipping that part until you see the movie. So Avatar: The Way of the Water, there's a whale-like creature in the movie, and I can't remember what it's called, Tuluk or something like that. Tuluk or Tuluk, and this one whale is ostracized. It's not a whale, but it's whale-like. And it's ostracized because its mother's killed, and then it tries to attack those that killed its mother. And so he's ostracized by its people and by the water people in the movie Avatar, the Na'vi that exist in the oceans. They ostracize him because from its people, these whales, there is no violence, because what they learned in their evolution is that violence begets violence. So they ostracized him because it acted aggressively to seek revenge against the people who hunted and killed its mother, right? Humans. And so according to what we learn in the movie is that these creatures, these whale creatures, are more intelligent than humans, and they are have more emotion than humans. And so I was watching this, and there were contradictions that were being made. First of all, if they're wiser than humans and they believe that violence and they understand that violence begets violence, and they have more emotion, which means they carry the depth and breadth of emotion greater than a depth of emotion greater than humanity, which means they have a depth of love and compassion greater than humanity, yet they were unable to show compassion to this young calf whose mother was killed, who was lost in its anger and fear, resentment over what transpired. They didn't have compassion for that calf, they didn't show forgiveness to that calf, they ostracized it. Okay, so that to me is not a higher level of consciousness or awareness. That is a contradiction of that. Okay, that is, I have a problem with that. It's contradictory. The other thing is, when I was watching this movie, it was incredibly violent. So the first movie was about a people, a planet, a world that was in one with their mother, one in balance in nature, and how humanity came and moved them out of balance. And how they were trying to defend themselves, right? They defend their way of life. But in this second movie, what I saw was what was once a people living in balance with their mother were becoming warring people. And so what it showed me was, what this was demonstrating to me was more how a world living at a 3D level in balance, once an aggressive species comes to that world, how that aggressive species can convert this world to a world living in imbalance. Okay, so we're watching the progression from the first to the second of how these people become out of balance. Okay, how they're becoming out of balance, and paralleling what happened on Earth, because I believe there was a time on this Earth where people lived in balance with nature. Okay, and then something shifted it out of balance. Okay, and so these are the 2 points I wanted to make, and it was very clear to me. But my concern was that people look to James Cameron almost like prophetic. I was talking about that video I watched Michael J. in, and how there are 2 other people on the video, and one of the people actually brought up James Cameron's movie and how it was disclosure, right? There was elements of disclosure in it. Okay, so now this video entices people to watch the movie to see what James Cameron has disclosed in his movie, right? That's a problem, because we are not meant to look outside of ourselves to find the answers we need. We are meant to look within. We connect with our heart, we connect to the higher self, and then we connect to the divine, and we understand, and we ask the questions, and we listen for the answers, and we seek and find from that place. We do not look outside ourselves. So what this person is encouraging you to do is watch a movie to get answers. This person was also talking about his connections in not the secret space program, but in Space Force, and what they're doing and what's going on with them. So we're seeking and looking for answers outside of ourselves from these people who have precarious at best connections that are unknown, unnamed, and giving whatever information. Okay, this is a slippery slope. This is people who are considered themselves awakened, not woke, which is a very negative term now, right? But awakened, and they are seeking more information from someone else. They're following. You're being encouraged. People are being encouraged to follow. These are red flags. And so I'm only saying this because it's probably the last time I'll say anything like this, because the direction of this video. But these are things that are so clear to me, and I'm not sure if they're clear to other people, but it's so important to take note, because this is how our intuition guides us. This is how our intuition shows us what we are meant to know and helps us discern. So I watch a lot of things. I'm not living in a bubble. Okay, I live in the world. I have social media accounts that I post on, and as I'm scrolling through, and I have friends, so I want to see what's going on with their families and what's going on in their lives, and social media is the easiest way to do it. So as I'm scrolling, I see stuff. And sometimes I click on stuff. And as I'm watching and viewing these things, my intuition is guiding me and telling me, does this have value? Does this not? And then also look at what is being done. Look at what is being presented. People are starting to follow just a different paradigm, yet they are still following. Okay? Anything I say, anything I convey, I encourage everybody to tap into their higher self, tap into their connection to the divine through the heart, and seek guidance. Does this have value for me? Because I do that with every piece of energy that comes in, every piece of information that comes in. Always, does it have value? Is it from a balanced place? And I discern. And we should all be doing that. We should all be doing that, especially now during this incredible time of change. And so then I have from the content from last week's video was easy to write. The information just flows. So when I'm writing in my journal, the information is just flowing, especially when I'm writing in paragraph form and not just taking notes. It's just very fluid. It's much more difficult to convey those messages verbally. I don't know if and so when I was watching last week's video, it was very difficult for me to watch. Some of the stuff that I was reading was very difficult for me to hear, but I have to convey the messages as they come through. But what was very clear to me was that some of those messages won't translate. They're not going to translate. Trying to explain to somebody how they can feel like they're living in light and living in bliss, but they're not, is next to impossible. There are no words. I feel it and I see it. So I know it intuitively. I can identify it, but I absolutely cannot explain it to anybody. That was clear to me when I was watching the last video. It was painful. It was painful for me to watch, but it was clear that that is not something that I can explain to somebody, that you have to know intuitively. I don't know if there is any way I can fully describe how someone who perceives themselves living in light or a balanced state can truly be existing in darkness or an unbalanced state. This is primarily because of perception. Humans on Earth have a very clear perception of what is good and bad, light or dark, balanced or unbalanced. But is that rooted in balanced source energy? Only each individual can answer that question for themselves through their connection with the divine. What this disconnect is conveying to me is divergence. I am being asked to release the old and walk into the new. The bridge I created is collapsing. I will be forming a new bridge. So basically what that says is I can't convey verbally how someone living in bliss or how someone perceived as living in balance can truly not be living in balance. Okay, there are no words. I just said that, I know, a minute ago, but there are no words that I can say. Okay, this is an intuitive knowing. It comes in energetically and I can feel it and I know it. Okay, but I can't share that with you. That's not something I can share. And because I can't share it with you, I'm not meant to. And to me, this is what that tells me is this is a moment of divergence. Okay, there are people that know and understand how someone can be living in what is perceived as a balanced state, but truly be living in darkness. Okay, there are people who can know that, intuitively know it, feel it. Okay, and there are people who do not. They are completely confused by what I'm saying. Okay, that shows me divergence. That shows me two different levels of conscious awareness. Okay, and that represents divergence to me. And so what I'm being told is that I am no longer in a place where I am meant to explain what these things mean. that people need to seek and find that inner divinity, that divine part of themselves, and understand their connection to the divine truly isn't a connection. That divine source lives within them and informs them and gives them everything they need when they need it. But you have to seek and find that part of yourself. And there are people who are on that journey and have that capacity, and there are people that are still completely disconnected from that, and there is a divergence happening. And I am no longer asked to try to explain these things, okay? And so I couldn't, because what it does is it creates anxiety, it creates disconnect, and it creates fear, and all things I'm not trying to create, okay? And so it's better for me to just speak as I am guided to speak, and if people can hear and it resonates with them and they understand the messages I'm conveying, then the messages are meant for them. If people are completely confused by what I'm saying and it doesn't resonate with them, then they're not going to pay attention, they're not going to listen, and that's how it's meant to be. So whatever bridge I have tried to create in the past is collapsing, and I'm creating a new bridge. 610, continuous vetting. Part of my process, my role, my path and purpose requires constant vetting. I go through phases where I am challenged and must maintain my center and drive forward from balance. Temptation is great on this world. Many have not been able to resist. My homeostatic state must be balance. Fear must be released. Snakes, lions, bears, sharks, bees, do they frighten you? We cannot sit in fear. These wild creatures react to fear. They know fear is a dangerous state of mind, and they must be ready to defend themselves against it. To not embody fear empowers the individual, because the energy around it does not move into a defensive or offensive state. This goes back to my discussion about Gracie and Gary from last week. So this is Gracie Gary, who is actually sitting in a very balanced state right now. When I sit in a feminine state, Gracie becomes Gary, because my energy field affects all energy around me. When I embody masculine energy, my peace lily becomes Gracie. When I am in a balanced state, I have twins, so I call it Gracie Gary. So since my energy affects all energy around it, when I'm sitting in a more feminine state, when I'm sitting in a feminine state, it takes on a masculine energy. When I'm sitting in a masculine state, the plants will take on a feminine energy, because my energy affects all energy around me. Okay? And when I'm in a balanced state, Gracie and Gary it switches between the two, or you could say it's more like having twins, or maybe Siamese twins, because Gracie and Gary it embodies both energies and from a more balanced place. So when I'm balanced, my plants are balanced. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say. When I sit in peace, in balance, all energy around me responds to that and embraces peace and balance. Snakes, bears, sharks, bees do not see me as a threat. They exist in peace and execute their role, their path and purpose on this world from a balanced state. All must live in balance To not live in balance assures you a place in Cepheus. So when I'm living in balance, all energy around me is living in balance. So when humanity is living in balance as a whole, we don't have to worry about animals attacking us, bees stinging us, whatever, all the sharks attacking us in the water. We don't have to worry about that, because when we're in balance, all energy is in balance and not threatened and not feeling like it has to defend itself, okay? Or its children, right? And so fear is a very threatening state of mind for these animals, and they can feel it. And so they have to defend themselves, or they have to act before you get them, right? They have to hurt you before they hurt them, right? Before you hurt their babies. And so that's why balance is so important, and that's where this world is going to. We're going to a place of balance. And that way all energy around us will be living in balance. Because this aggression that's happening on this world is a result of unbalanced energy, unbalanced conscious minds. So Cepheus has a supermassive black hole and 2 of the largest suns or stars in the Milky Way galaxy. The feeling is grounding. Okay, so I started doing some research about Cepheus, mostly because of what information that was coming in to me, and so I found that there's a supermassive black hole in Cepheus, and then also it has 2 of the largest suns in the Milky Way galaxy. The feeling is grounding, greater gravity for grounding in their mother, a pull towards the mother, divine feminine, with assistance of the push of father, divine masculine, the sun. So the feeling was with the, somehow, because I don't know astronomy, and I'm not astrophysicist or anything like that, but as I'm getting this information and I'm reading, what's coming to me intuitively is that the supermassive black hole, the size of the suns, will create more gravity on those in Cepheus, and therefore it will pull people, whatever living energies are on that planet, to the mother, and ground them. It'll kind of force them into grounding in the earth. Earth humans were afforded equal access to the elements fire, earth, air, water. The elements of earth or grounding will be dominant on this world. Those leaving this world must work to reground themselves. They have not been able to ground themselves here on this world. This transition is meant to help them find their way back to their hearts, back to their true divine selves. So here on earth, we have equal access to all the elements. Okay, that's another unique thing. That's what came to me. Equal access to all the elements. When these energies that will be moving to Cepheus, they will be more earth. This will be a more earth centered planet. The people will be more drawn to grounding in the earth. They will not have as much access to water, fire, or air. So something's going to be different in their atmosphere. Something's going to be different in the makeup of their planet. So they're not, 3/4 of our planet is water, and so that planet will not hold as much water, because this is going to be a very earth centered society. Okay, that's what that means. This is, and so they'll be drawn more to earth, okay, soil, whatever that means on that world. This is the will of the divine. We all carry the divine light, and thus it is our will. So no one's imposing this on us. We all carry the divine light within us, and as part of our process of growth, we choose a world that is focused on earth. This is not ostracism. This is love. And so because of what I talked about in the movie, it's important to note that this is not ostracism. This is divine love. These energies go together as a group to support one another in their endeavor. I have gone ahead with my soul group to prepare this world. We work together to assist those struggling. We leave no one behind or alone. We support from non-judgment and unconditional love. This is our path and purpose. This is our will. This is our light work. So I have 2 brothers that are drug addicts, and so I know from experience, from witnessing what they go through. Drug addicts leave rehab. When a drug addict leaves rehab, you don't take him to a bar, okay? You don't take them, you don't tempt fate. One thing I've learned from my brothers, once you are sober, you cannot go back to your old stomping grounds and your past people. That is tempting fate, and you will most likely fall back into your old patterns of behavior. So you have to change your whole life because you don't want to go back to your old ways, right? The idea is to stay sober. We, the members of my soul group, move to where we are meant to, sit in our center, or move out of center, then back in, and live by example. We demonstrate how to find your way out of the darkness, then keep ourselves open to receive. We keep ourselves open to receive all energy, then help guide in the transmutation of that energy to balance. In my youth, when my childhood trauma started coming to the surface, I was living completely out of balance, trying to escape my pain, sadness, and confusion. I prayed, ran, worked out, drank, used drugs, and often would pray and ask for help. I wish that someone would just put their hand out and from a sincere place with no ulterior motive say, "Hi, my name is. How can I help you?" That never happened, except my parents. They always helped me when I felt buried by my pain. I'm saying this for two reasons. First, this is what we do, my soul group. We live through the trauma, find our way back to center, then work on aiding those who are ready to transition to balance. Second, we must maintain boundaries from a sincere, balanced place with no ulterior motives. We must aid those who are open, but not enable. When we try to save, I have that in quotes, when we try to save anyone, we are moving from ego and have moved out of balance. We do not cut off those not ready. We help transition them to a place that will help them be successful. On this world, that place is Cepheus. This world is protected. So Cepheus is protected right now. None have access except for those who are meant to. So when we go there and work with the fields, work with the planet itself, we are meant to be there, so we are allowed within the field of that world. I know the Zeta Reticuli are looking for information to help them find this world because the energies incarnating there will carry the memories of Earth in their super unconscious. And they know they can tap into that and use those memories as a means of control and manipulation. The veil on this world is thick, and this Cepheus is not your place. You will be busy addressing other things. The thought comes into mind, how do those not existing within the storage unit on their world maintain themselves when they are separated? So meaning the Zeta Reticuli, how do they maintain themselves when they are not in the immediate vicinity of their storage unit? I am always connected to the divine. There is no separation. From this perceived place of separation, what happens to the Zeta Reticuli who are off-world should something happen to their central housing unit? So once they separate from that central housing unit and they're traveling the universe, let's just say, but they're not here, what happens to them who are not contained within that central housing unit should something happen to that housing unit? Okay, should it start to break down and no longer contain the consciousnesses within it? I know the consciousnesses within the unit are seeping out. I have that in quotation marks, all seeping out or losing their integrity. They were not meant to be separated from the physical form, the body, their DNA. The energy field and DNA are symbiotic and cannot exist without one cannot exist without the other at this level of consciousness. What the Zeta Reticuli are doing is tantamount to a dog chasing its tail. Every trauma, so all their what they're trying to do is an exercise in futility. Basically, that's it. Every trauma I've been through, living through my childhood traumas and reconciling those to the point where I can accept a new incarnation, living through the understanding and knowing of this spiritual awakening, and accepting that I am or have incarnated in many dark places, and I will again, is beyond what I could put into words. I see this darkness, I feel it, I know what is ahead of me or where I am in every now moment, and I consciously choose to walk into it knowing that I will have to find my way back to my heart in order to find my way back to center, no matter what I endure. I can't explain the stages I personally go through to successfully execute my path and purpose, and thus the will of the divine. It is my journey, my process. We all have our own, but it is brutal and necessary. Only from the most balanced state can I accept this truth and exist in these incarnations. I talked about this in the last video. It is important for us who walk through deep darknesses to find our way back to center before we return to the light. We must always be clear in what we do and why we do it. And so every time when I remember my childhood traumas and I have to face it and deal it and release it, it brought me to a place where, okay, I can incarnate again, because I never wanted to incarnate. I can't tell you how many times I would lay in bed crying, saying, because I knew, even though I was raised Catholic, that reincarnation was real. I would cry and say, please don't make me come back. Please don't make me come back. And then I have to go through this process of accepting what I've been through, understanding my path and purpose, and releasing the emotions connected to those traumas so I can drive forward and say, okay, I'm okay. I can reincarnate again into another life. And risk that it might be another life of darkness, right? Of course, I didn't know then what I know now. So as I go through this process, that I'm this other level of understanding of path and purpose, and know not only that I will go into darkness, but I will go into deep darkness, and I do it willingly. I have to come to a place of understanding my center and my connection to the divine, my path and purpose, and releasing all fear that might be related to it, or anxiety that might be related to it because of what I carry in my consciousness, in order to drive forward and be able to incarnate into my next life or into my next now moment. Okay? It's very, very challenging. Very challenging. I can no longer remain ambiguous. There are certain things that have no words for me to explain. You must seek and find these truths for yourself. I must begin another part of my light work. This unbalanced energy has convinced many that its perspective is power. Is power. It is desirable, and it is your goal. So it has convinced you that this is the path for you. This path of power, wealth, of material plane, abundance, and gain, right? They want to convince you that that's all there is. There's no spirituality, there's no God, there's only these shiny things. And you should want these shiny things, because these shiny things bring X, Y, and Z, right? That's what humanity right now is being convinced of. And many people are aligning themselves with that. We have come to a time where humanity must see and know the will of the divine and how karmic consequences manifest. I hear so many individuals asking for change, waiting for aliens or beings of love and light to come to earth to create the change we need, fix the problems of our world. This is not what is meant to be. We were to find our way back to our hearts and heal our world. Everything we need lies within. What comes next is founded in unconditional love and compassion. It relieves humanity of the burden of falling deeper into this darkness. It will release you from this darkness. So many who have prayed for this release will receive it. One door is closing for all energy on this world. Two doors are opening. We All will be starting anew. This is a gift of grace. This becomes my focus. So my focus has changed to this new path of transcendence for Earth. I'm not meant to sit between two worlds. I'm not meant to sit between this 3D reality and this 5D reality. I'm being told that it's time to shift completely into 5D, which means that a lot of what I will be saying is going to start becoming inaccessible to many people. So let me see. Okay, that's it. Thank you.